Hey guys, this is Corey with the Showdown Battle League, and this time we have the Season 4 Week 7 recap. And I am joined by Carlos of the Oklahoma City Electivire and Jack of the Toronto Staraptors. And we're going to go ahead and jump right in. The first match was actually the match of the week, and that was Chabin against Jarrett of the Modino Marowaks and the Irvine Igglybuffs. This was a pretty intense match. Jarrett ended up getting the win, but it was kind of to the wire on this one. A couple of things that I took away from this was the nasty plot, Grass Knot, Infernape, almost one-shotting Suicune. A couple other things, there were some over predictions on Chabin's side with the Rotom, and had the Swords Dance Fire Punch Mew from Jarrett, which really I think ended up kind of saving the match for him. And the Swords Dance Mega Scizor at the end was kind of a last-ditch effort by Chabin to pull it out. Unfortunately, it did not work. And while we're on this, we did have a tie for Play of the Week this week, with Swords Dance Fire Punch Mew also being one of the plays of the week. So what did you guys think about this one?
Well, I think one thing I really noticed about this match is how Jarrett's been using two of his big threats. Mew is obviously awesome with it being the play of the week, but with Incineroar, it's one of his consistent Pokemon this season. It's a really low-key threat he's been using this season that he's got a really large amount of consistent damage with it that his opponents, I found, haven't really been able to deal with really well. And I really like how he can use it to not necessarily like do a lot with, but just get really nice chunks of damage off with. He's maneuvered it really well and really just magnificently with Volt Absorb. Like you could see it with the Rotom, he would stay in at certain points to get the Volt Absorb and get health back and all that sort of stuff. And that was part of what made this match so interesting.
Yeah, I think Jarrett's using a lot of the things on his team just very well in general. Thundurus has been just a huge threat pretty much every game he's brought it. Really gotten more creative with Mew. I know the first few weeks he was using more like their bulky kind of sets, whereas now he's using like the Swords Dance set, and like it worked out really well. And I agree with Incineroar. I also think he's using Empoleon pretty well. That's been able to been like just a consistent sort of like support wall for him every single game. And same thing with Suicune. He's using most of the things on his team pretty well. And on Chabin's side, a few over predictions with Infernape. I think it's a really cool set. And, he may have had a shot with Scizor there at the end where he was trying to. I was kind of surprised to see like the Quiver Dance Masquerain. I thought when he brought it, he might bring like a sticky web set, just try to like have webs up and then have Nidoking, under webs start hitting things. But because he set up the Quiver Dance and he went for like the Air Slash on Empoleon, I think it did like 15. Like maybe he was trying to flinch from now, I'm not sure, but that didn't really end up doing too much. And Masquerain isn't great, but I think with Sticky Web, it can be like cool. It gives it like a nice niche.
I really like some of the little things Chabin did, like where he used Toxic on Skarmory on the Mew, where Synchronize wouldn't Toxic his Skarmory. He definitely succeeded with things like that. But yeah, with the Masquerain, Sticky Webs probably would have been better in this match. Either that or maybe some other mon in this match would have been better, because in the way he used it, it really just didn't do much, and it probably lost him a lot of momentum at that point in the match, where something to turn back the match in his favor.
Yeah, I think this match definitely is deserving of the match of the week. And so with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next match, which was Joe of the New England Pat Rats against Frank of the Compton Clefables. This one also had the other play of the week in it, which was the Swords Dance Baton Pass Decidueye, which really helped Joe win the match. I mean, it just kept coming in and setting up and switching out, and it was really bulky. Frank just really couldn't do anything to it. So that was a really cool play to see, and almost a couple other things was the Chinchino almost getting a sweep. I think if not for Garchomp, he would have swept all of Frank's team with that, I think. And really, I think Decidueye ended up getting the play of the week. But one questionable play that Joe made was the Dodrio not going for a different move other than Quick Attack. on the Virizion. I mean, he outsped it, so he kind of sacked that off for no reason at the end. But Joe still pulled out a pretty big win this week against Frank. What do you guys think?
I think for the Dodrio thing, he may have forgotten with the speed buff because it was 100 last gen, so Virizion would have outsped it. But yeah, it's 110 this gen, so a bit of misplay. But he used Decidueye really well. We've seen some people do like agility baton pass with Zapdos and like make a low punny also agility baton pass. We've seen some like cool baton pass strategies this season, and he was able to use it multiple times throughout the same game because he put recovery on Decidueye, Spirit Shackle to trap things so they couldn't escape. So I think he used that. He did use Decidueye pretty well to get a lot of setup going for him, which was really nice. And also, it's cool to see him have Rotom again because he used that really well last season. He's able to get the trick on Blissey, which was cool. I think when he started setting up the second time with Decidueye and he was in versus Garchomp was sort of trapped Spirit Shackle, and if it lasts forever or not. But maybe it does last forever and he couldn't switch, but he kind of just stood in there. And once he was in there and he couldn't sort of get rid of him, it was kind of over for Frank. He wasn't really able to stop the setup in any way, and he was able to just abuse the fact that Garchomp was more of a defensive set this week.
Yeah, I have to say, I think Frank should have definitely thought about, like, at the beginning, he realized this later on in the match, but there was a point where he switched into Darmanitan on Decidueye and just scared it out. I think if he had done that at the beginning or later on where he had Garchomp in, he could have scared it out and prevented a lot of stuff from happening. Maybe just doing that once or twice could have been a big prevention of a lot of things that happened in this match. Yeah, overall, Joe did play this match really well. Decidueye there was nothing, like everything aside from Darmanitan really couldn't do much to Decidueye, and that was just amazing prep on Joe's part that just made this battle go really well for him.
Yeah, I think Joe played very well this match. And unfortunately for Frank, he just wasn't able to pull out the win. So next up we have Tony of the Columbus Littons against Ryan of the Olympia Bearticks. And this kind of continues Ryan's steady decline as the season goes on. He started off really strong, but he's kind of dropped down as we've gotten further and further along. Tony did pick up another win. This is his second win of the season, so that was big for him. And he just really out-prepped Ryan, I think, in this one. The couple of cool things that he did, the Cosmic Power Baton Pass Low Punny into Manaphy from Ryan, though, was pretty cool. But Tony had the Scarf Necrozma to kind of pick off threats as they came in. And I think that's ultimately what cost Ryan the match. And the Flame Body Magmortar was pretty neat to see that burn low punny. What do you guys think on this one?
I'd have to say, one of the biggest things I liked from Tony on his side was the Yachi Berry on the Zapdos to stop the Manaphy. Right away after baton passing, having Zapdos right there with the Yachi Berry just eliminated that threat that he had. He's able to stop pretty much all that setup, cut down Manaphy down to half health, and then get Necrozma in where it was able to kill it after it was down to enough health where it was in range. And yeah, it was that. I think that led into Necrozma being able to tear apart Ryan's team, and that Necrozma set was amazing with the Scarf. I love Necrozma from what I've seen. I definitely consider drafting it because it has just such a versatile set and can learn a lot of unique moves. Has some weird recovery options and just all these unique moves. He's been using it well this season, and this week highlighted probably the best. I'm intrigued to see what he does with that in the future.
It was cool to see Prismatic Laser because I hadn't really heard of that move until I saw it. But it's I guess a psychic version of Hyper Beam, which he was able to knock out the Manaphy with. That was just super cool. And because Necrozma was so tanky, he's able to take a hit from Raikou and still keep it for later on to use as a win condition. One thing I really liked from Tony's side is the Flame War Melodic. I had a similar idea back in the finals for season 3 where I had Toxic Orb because it gives you a massive buff to physical defense, and I ran especially defensive Melodic, so it was super bulky on both sides. But Flame Orb works really nice with this gen because of the burn nerf, so it's only 6%, and because of that, it works way better as like a low punny answer, Scizor, Victini. It can take those hits far better. And I thought that was just a really cool tech he put on. And outside of that, I think he just played really well. As Carlos said, Yachi Berry Zapdos. It just seemed like his prep was really on point this week. And I know from the season, he's been, I think, one of the most creative team builders, and it really showed this game.
One other thing on Ryan's side, I noticed when he was in Zatu and then Tony was in his Mega Diancie, when he was going for his Diamond Storm, there was nothing for Ryan to switch into. I know he had Manaphy earlier on, but it would have been probably nice to see Donphan or something like that, something that could take that hit, because other than that, there isn't really much on his team to take that, and that might have been something he could consider bringing this week. It seems like he was really weak overall to Diancie, and that's a big threat on his team that I think he just didn't prep for very well.
Yeah, I agree. I just think Tony's been a phenomenal team builder this season, and it really showed in this match. And so next we'll move on to Brian of the Boston Breloom against Kevin of the Baltimore Oricorios. Brian did end up winning this game. This was, I believe, a rematch from earlier in the season. But unfortunately for Kevin, again, it was kind of came down to hacks for the second time since they played. The Icicle Crash from Mamoswine onto Clefable really kind of turned the game into Brian's favor, and I think Kevin could have won if not for that. What do you guys think on that one?
Yeah, definitely. Cosmic Power Clefable over Calm Mind just so we could take physical hits better was a really cool thing that you don't see as often from Clefable as opposed to Calm Mind. And I think Brian even said it in chat, if it wasn't for that flinch, he probably would have just sort of straight up lost. But flinch is 30%, and in a situation like that, you kind of just have to go with whatever your best option of winning is. Brian knew that, and he was able to pull out the win because of that. He also had a couple of cool ideas. Snatch on Rotom Wash, or like take like status moves, or like sort of like support moves. I thought that was really cool. It didn't really get showcased, but it was neat. And also, I think just Zygarde 10%. I think that was a really cool free agency pick, because looking at a few of these teams, a lot of teams tend to be pretty ground weak, especially with 1,000 Arrows that ignores like flying typing, and I'm excited to see what he does with it going forward, because I think that's going to be a really key free agency pick in the next few battles for him.
I'd say in this match, one Pokemon I really liked how Brian used was Aerodactyl. It's not really a highly valued Pokemon, I'd say, and he was able to use it very well in this matchup. And like the taunt early on the Clefable, and just using it as a good support mon that can hit really hard, I think was a very good option in this match. And I mean, Kevin continues to use Araquanid. Nice. It's a Pokemon that continues to surprise me with its bulk. I mean, it just doesn't look like something that'd be as bulky as it is, and it can take hits. But yeah, I think this was just just like their last match. They both battled really well, and it unfortunately came down to hacks. But again, like Jack said, Brian knew that's what he needed to do, and in this case, he happened to get it.
Yeah, he won. Unfortunate for Kevin, but it is what it is. And I think that's like I said, the second time they've played, so he's won both of their matchups so far. And next we'll move on to Jack of the Toronto Staraptors against Hans of the Nuremberg Ninetales. And despite what everyone thought would happen, Hans did end up winning. And it looks like there was a crit on the last turn that cost Jack the game, potentially. So, Jack, I will let you kind of talk about that.
Yeah, overall, it was a really intense game. Hans started off pretty well. I misplayed really badly with Altaria. I forgot about the fact that I didn't have Fairy typing pre-Mega. So I brought it in on Umbreon on Foul Play and that crit, and I kind of lost Altaria super early. And he was able to sort of prioritize getting up rocks early, and I didn't bring hazard removal this week, so that was good on his end. I think I made some good plays going forward. I was able to get rocks of my own, and Greninja was able to put in a ton of work for my team. We got like 3 kills, and Torrent actually did something this week. It allowed me to knock out Umbreon once I was in that range. When it came to the late game, pretty much what he had left was Excadrill, Pinsir, and Slowbro. And once I was able to poison Slowbro and sort of sack off some members of my team, like Rhydon, to get Mega Horn damage on it, and it came down to Arcanine versus Excadrill and Pinsir, I was pretty sure in that situation I would won because it was Scarf Arcanine. I'd sped crept Scarfed Excadrill, and I found out earlier that he was Scarfed. But the quick attack on Pinsir ended up doing like 50 or 60% when I was supposed to do like 21, which meant that after I knocked it out, it also knocked me out from the recoil. So if it hadn't been for the crit, I think I most definitely would have won. If nothing else, at least 0-0, and the win would have gone to me, because that's how the system works. When you knock yourself out to recoil, you technically die second. But that's kind of Pokemon in situations like that. There's not really much I can do. But overall, it was an intense game. It was kind of just sort of lame that it had to end with like a crit, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the game we play. So that is an important win for Hans, though, because that ties you guys up as far as win-loss ratio. You do still have a significantly higher differential, but if you lose next week and he takes up a win, that's he's gonna go over you as the division champion. So still a very close division for Blue. Really, most of the divisions are fairly close right now in terms of somebody with 1 or 2 wins can flip the entire division, which is nice. And so next we'll go to the next match, Dennis of the Wisconsin Whimsicots against Cody of the Zenica Zekrams. And Dennis was able to win this one. This was a pretty big win for him. One of the things I really liked was the Calm Mind Klefki sweep that he had, which was not something you see all the time. So I wanted to see your opinion on this.
I mean, personally, when it comes to Cody's team, he definitely is a unique team with some of the lower tier mons. I really love Electivire. Personally, is my favorite Pokemon, so I continue to love his use of it, and he is actually using it really well with how it's not really, in my opinion, too great competitively, but he was able to pick up a kill with it this match, and he's used it as a good solid threat this season. And then also in this match, Mawile, he used pretty well, which also picked up a kill and almost another one. Mawile was a free agent pickup, if I recall, and I think with how he used this match, if he continues to use it like this, can be a solid threat this season. Fairy Steel typing is a really solid typing, regardless of it being semi-fragile, lower tier mon. It has some solid matchups. From what I've noticed when I was looking at it in the draft, I definitely considered it. And yeah, overall this matchup was definitely a close one. But once Klefki came out, there wasn't much he could do. A theme this season has definitely been Calm Mind setups that just end a match, and that's what happened right here.
Yeah, I really like Cody's use of his lower tiers. Electivire, I think that was Scarf this week. That put in work, and also Sword Dance Mawile. Just seeing, because NU picks, or I guess this case tier 5s, do really well. That was awesome. I also really liked Dennis's use of Nature's Madness and Taunt combined on Tapu Fini on Venusaur, because really that thing can't do much to Venusaur at all, but having its health and going for Taunt, the prediction that he'd go for Synthesis, really limited what it was able to do. And then of course, it was a back and forth game until Klefki came in, and I remember Dennis making sort of a hint about that sort of Calm Mind Klefki set, saying he's keeping that in the back, and he showed it off this week, and it just did very, very well. It was good on Cody to have Earthquake on Mega Venusaur to at least have a chance to knock it out, I think, depending on if you what boosts. I forget if he needed to get a rest, or what the rolls, maybe he could have knocked it out with Venusaur, but it was good planning on his part. But that set was able to put in a ton of work, and Carlos is right, it's kind of been the season of the Calm Mind, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely a very cool play to see there. And the next game we have is going to be Christian of the Seattle Sylveons against Suko of the Denver Durants. And this is actually Suko's first game with us this season. He is replacing Lewis of the Chicago White Sox, who is going to be retiring for the rest of the season. And this is Suko's first match, and he ended up pulling out a win. It was kind of interesting because Christian did have the opportunity to take the the forfeit 3-0 win, but he decided to go for differential instead, and ended up losing by one. It's a very close game, but it kind of turns out that Suko had used one of Lewis's Pokemon that he did not have anymore. So they did a rematch, and Christian ended up losing by 2 points that time. So unfortunately, did not work out in Christian's favor this week. He had a potential differential of -5 from the 5-point swing from where he could have been. So I think Suko just outplayed Christian. Despite him being new to League format, he adapted to it very well, and overall it was a solid game. He just kind of outplayed him. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this Suko first game, and I think he definitely showed what he can do. And Lewis is a good team. He was able to use that really well. Mega Gardevoir put in a ton of work late game, especially once he got webs up. And I think that was, I remember talking about that in the draft video. Like once sticky webs get up, Pokemon like Mega Gardevoir, which is only real issues, it's kind of slow, can put in so much work like late game. And also really interesting to see Draco Meteor Haxorus, but it did like 30% to what it hit, so it didn't do much. On Christian's side, I don't think he should have sacked off Thundurus to get the Thunder Wave on Entei, because that thing's not super fast to begin with, and if he kept Thundurus, it could have outsped Gardevoir late game, ignored Sticky Web, and Revenge killed it to make sure that it didn't sort of sweep his team late game. And if he'd done that, I think he would have been able to keep himself in contention during the late game. Although I liked his use of Jellicent with having taunts to sort of shut down Toxapex, who's generally pretty passive. I think that was good. He's been using Jellicent generally pretty well, but I think if he'd kept Thundurus, he would have had a chance late game.
Another thing I like from Christian's side is his use of Mega Metacham. Ever since early in the season when he figured out how to use it right, he's been able to use it as a consistent threat, and that was shown really well in this match. I don't think that Suko had a really solid answer to it defensively, and he was able to eventually knock it out, but I would have liked to have seen more of a defensive answer to that. I know at one point he said maybe he misclicked or something like that, and that's how one of his mons went down because of it, but it just seemed like Metacham applied a lot of pressure to his team, and maybe if he brought something else, that wouldn't have been the case. But
I think we lost Christian there. I'm sorry, Carlos. And so the next match, unfortunately, is Carlos's match of the Oklahoma City Electivires against Josh of the London Lycanrocs. Carlos won, and it was a pretty big win for him.
Yeah, Carlos just kind of disappeared, so I'll talk a bit about the game. But one thing I noticed is both sides really doing a good job of prioritizing both getting rocks up and also removing it, and that's, I think, it's good to see, because I think people back in like season 1, they weren't really thinking about that too much, like drafting rapid spinners and ensuring they had good hazard removal. But like on Josh's side, he had both Hitmontop and Fortress, so he's able to use that really well. There was definitely a key moment with Weavile missing the Icicle Crash on Aromatisse and him getting the Moonblast kill, which ended up being pretty important. But I also know Carlos missed like 3 Stone Edges in a row, so it's kind of like hacks for hacks. And then he hit the one on Chandelure late game, which mattered. I really want, honestly, looking at the matchup, I think like a Life Orb Rose Raid could have put in so much work versus Carlos's team, because just like Sludge Bomb, not much in his team really switched into that, or like the combination of like Sludge Bomb, Lee Storm, and like HP Fire would have been really difficult for Carlos to deal with. But I know when he brought it in on the one turn, he went for Toxic Spikes, but then Carlos just like went into Tentacruel immediately, absorbed them without even having to spin. So I think I really want to see Rose Raid be used well, because that thing is like super underrated as like a powerful wall breaker, and I think in this case it had a pretty good matchup, but it didn't get to do much.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jack. Roserade was one of the threats that I was definitely scared of in this match. My only real answer to it that on my team that could take it on was Mega Aggron, and I think Leaf, I think Life Orb Leaf Storm did like 40% or something like that. But yeah, when it came to this matchup, uh, it was turn 34 when the match really started turning around. At the beginning, it was sort of just us switching around and trying to uh, figure out what we were gonna do. He was trying to decide what my Tangrowth set was. Like after the match, he was asking me if it actually had a grass move or not because I kept on spamming knockoff, and I think I ended up knocking off 4 of his items or 5, something like that. It was just that's part of what helped me a lot in this match was knocking off his items, and he that I was able to get his Marsh Stomp really low at the beginning, but what really turned the match around was turn 34 when he was in Weavile and I was in Aromatisse, and he missed his Icicle Crash, and I was able to kill his Weavile. And after that, it sort of just came down to us sort of letting Pokemon go down until it came to the matchup of Terrakion and Chandelure, and him deciding when he was going to stay in or not. And there were 3 times, like Jack said, when I missed Stone Edge and he switched out. And eventually I stayed in, and he stayed in, and I hit the Stone Edge, and managed to finally pull out a win after 5 weeks of losing. And I'm hoping to make it now a 5-game winning streak to turn that around.
So that is week 7 in a nutshell. We do have week 8 coming up. Some good matches. I'm excited for Dennis against Jack. I think that'll be a really good one. Let me see what other ones we got. What else? What are you guys looking forward to? I know Brian against Hans is going to be a pretty big one.
Yeah, Brian Hans is gonna be huge. Also, I'm really looking forward to Frank versus Chabin because when that happened in week 1, it seems like Chabin was kind of under prepped and Frank really prepped well. But I think Chabin's bounced back pretty well since then, and he's shown some like really creative sets and some like big wins. So I think that'll be a really intense rematch. And outside of that, yeah, I'm just looking through them. But yeah, also I'm looking forward to play Dennis.
I think Christian and Josh is going to be a pretty big one too.
I mean, I personally am excited for my match. It's the rematch of the last match where we set the turn record, and that won't unfortunately happen this time because I don't have Toxapex, but it'll be interesting to see how that goes without Toxapex this time.
Also, I think your game's important, Carlos, because between you and Cody, I think whoever loses that game is statistically like eliminated from playoffs at that point. So I think it's going to be like a really big like interdivision game.
Yeah, we're getting to the point now where playoff spots are going to be decided in the next couple of weeks. I would say really the next probably 2 weeks we'll start solidifying playoff spots. So that'll be exciting to see. It's always interesting to see at the end of the season. But that is all we have for this week, and we will be back next week for our week 8 recap.